Skybound, a quest to find a lost friend. It had been 3 years since Chris's remarkable journey to the Titanic using his homemade submarine. But now, his life seemed nothing but ordinary. Ever since his best friend Aaron moved away, Chris was left alone on Hart Avenue, with nothing but his memories to keep him company. On a seemingly uneventful day, Chris received a phone call from none other than Aaron himself. But his voice was muffled and filled with static. Chris strained to hear as Aaron urgently spoke. "Chris, I'm in trouble. I need you to come to North Korea." And just like that, the line went dead. Chris was at a loss for words and didn't know what to do. Without hesitation, he ran to his astrophysicist neighbor, Ruby, who had helped him with the blueprints for his submarine years ago. He pounded on his door, desperately calling out for Ruby. But as the door swung open, Chris was met with a horrific sight. Before him stood Ruby, with his loyal dog Boris by his side. But Boris, who Chris had punched in the face years ago, was now jumping at his jugular, seemingly trying to collapse his Adam's apple. Blood splattered everywhere as Ruby struggled to pull Boris away. But in the midst of the chaos, Ruby calmly asked, "What's up, Chris? How can I help you?" as if nothing had happened. Chris explained the phone call and Ruby immediately took charge, grabbing Chris's phone and plugging it into his computer. With his eyes wide and ready to pop out of his head, Chris anxiously snorted line after line of cocaine, in hopes of finding a solution to Aaron's predicament. But as he did so, one of his eyeballs popped out of its socket, just like what had happened to Aaron years ago when they were building the submarine. Ruby looked on in horror, but quickly got back to work. It seemed that Aaron was in North Korea, and Chris was determined to find him. Ruby revealed that he had blueprints for a plane in his back pocket, but Chris, in his drug-induced state, punched Ruby in the face and took the blueprints, just like he had done years ago to get the submarine blueprints. With a few pit stops for a cigarette, Chris made his way to the abandoned Tasty Burger, which was now a result of his past actions. He used equipment from the burger joint to build the plane, and in just 27 hours, he was ready to take off. But before he left, Chris made a quick call to his old friend Tommy, asking for 7 pounds of his best Colombian cocaine. Tommy arrived in no time and handed over the drugs with a chuckle. "Ha ha, another adventure, I see." Chris hopped into the plane and took off, snorting line after line as he made his way to North Korea. Days went by, and the sky turned a hazy orange, with a putrid smell of rotting bodies as Chris reached North Korean airspace, but what he saw below shocked him. Posters of Aaron were plastered all over the country, as if he was some sort of god. This must be the effect of Tommy's drugs, Chris thought to himself. He landed and was greeted by none other than Aaron himself, dressed in a sharp sport coat. "Took you longer than I thought, my friend," Aaron said with a smirk. "You see, we run this shit here. Welcome to my kingdom." Chris couldn't believe his eyes and wondered what kind of trouble Aaron had gotten himself into. But one thing was for sure, this was not going to be an ordinary adventure, and as the two friends embraced, little did they know, the horrors that awaited them in North Korea would be far beyond anything they could have ever imagined.